live?
Yes.
Or
I have just recognized that I'm very dependent on that 30 seconds before.
you're ready to get you all psyched up and ready to go.
Sucked in. Yep.
We are, hi everybody, welcome. This is CLCI Live. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody to join in the conversation. We want to hear from you. And we are monitoring the chat, comment, like, all of that good stuff. My brain is not fully functioning today. And that is all for me. How are you all doing? Let's see. Our topic. Look at that. We're in Balance 101. And we're missing people today.
Oh my goodness.
The people we are missing, we miss you. So today's topic is honesty versus kindness. In the balance, how do we balance honesty with kindness? How does that work? How do we feel about that? What do you think?
Well, when I've taught, I often bring this up. Kindness and candor, right, is different than just rip the Band-Aid off.
Mm-hmm.
I just got to rip the Band-Aid. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not sure how kindness, I guess I'm on a bandwagon at the moment, how kindness equates to sugarcoating it. I know what sugarcoating is. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think one of the things that was discussed in some of our research is this idea that people have in their heads about not being able to be honest because other people might react in certain ways, or other people might be hurt by it, or other people might not appreciate it. So instead they sort of say, I'm just, I just want to be nice. I don't want to be. And I think that you've kind of touched on a point. They don't have to be mutually exclusive, right? Mm-hmm. We don't have to, we will get there. I think that there are varying levels of kindness, right? Or of honesty, right? What do we mean when we say honesty?
Well, can I touch something, tracking back what you said a few moments ago? I think some people think it's codependent if you add the kindness to it, the softness to ripping that Band-Aid off. Mm. Please share what your question was again, Brooke, because I had that thought in my head.
I think that what I was saying is what do we, when we're saying honesty, what do we mean? Because I think that it's one of those things where we talk about these big topics, and there's an assumption that there's only one kind of honesty, right? There's only one. But so what does it mean to you? Because I have a feeling that there can be different interpretations, right? Jen? Jerome?
I was just going to say, I think I have no other way to define honesty other than me just giving my opinion. Because even if I am, I would say sometimes I can be correct about or incorrect about something, but what I tell you is what I'm thinking at the moment. So I think that's me being honest. I can sometimes, I guess it can be perceived as me saying a lie, telling a lie if I come and give you incorrect information. So if you can wrap your head around it, I think honesty to me is just really being open about your answer and not in any way trying to deceive, just given the information that you do have.
Yeah, I kind of go along with that. I like what Joy and Success put in the chat. Integrity in what you say. Steve. It skipped. Anyway, that integrity piece with the honest piece, it's still coming from an opinion though, right? Integrity is doing my best, sharing my best, and not with intent to manipulate someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I know Jen, do you want to share something here?
Yeah. So, I mean, just the definition of honesty, I guess, that I hold is speaking on what feels true for me in the moment. And sometimes what feels true for me isn't actually objectively true, but there's something that's important to me about it's the integrity piece of speaking on that, but almost like with a willingness to receive the possibility that I'm, you know, that's not the only perspective, or that there's a flaw in my thinking. I love when someone points that out, I'm willing to look at that. But yeah, for me, being honest is expressing what feels true to me, but also not to the point where it hurts someone else. I do try to be mindful of that.
Oh my gosh. So there's like three things that came up for me in that while you were sharing, like three.
Okay.
So, which is, I think it's super cool because one of the things you shared was that you are sharing your opinion or your basically what is true for you in the moment, but you know that it may not be true, but you are open to the possibility that it may not be true, which for me is a step beyond honesty. That's like honesty paired with the willingness to be wrong, which is like a next step piece, right? Not everybody shares their truth and is open to the possibility that it could be not true.
Right.
A lot of people are very tied to their truth and very, very attached to their truth and very unwilling to hear that there might be truths that are different for others.
I'm going to jump in here for a second because the words I'm hearing in my head, I want to share real quick. What you're talking about is being vulnerable with your candor, your kindness, your sharing of what your understanding is. And then there's a different side of that vulnerability. It's being open to the influence with the person you're having that interaction with. And so being open to that influence means you're willing to grow and open to what is could be possible. It doesn't mean that we're codependent and we're going to latch on that. It means we're going to put it through, that balance of what works and what doesn't work for us.
Yeah.
So and that willingness to accept other truths is a big important piece here. And I think that one of the things that we have to be aware of and open to and willing to we have to I think there are moments when if we're sharing a truth with someone, both people have to be ready for that, right? Both parties have to be open and ready for that moment, because if you have somebody that's very stuck in a space of not ready to hear something that maybe they isn't true for them, you can hit a brick wall, right? I mean, and sometimes you can get hit a brick wall that hits back, like
and we hope not literally.
Yeah, but it can be counterproductive. When you're sharing that moment where you are willing to accept that somebody else's truth or your truth may not be true, you're already in a space of willingness to grow, change, and learn, right? And not everybody comes or shares their truth when they're in that space. I think that there is a piece to this too, and that is that why are we sharing our truth? And I think that is important. I think knowing why we are sharing the truth, our truth, is a very important piece in this. And before I share my thoughts on that, what are your thoughts?
You can definitely be honest for the wrong reason. I mean, if I'm being honest to satisfy and affirm my own, my own judgment of something, then is that, you know, is that worth being honest, right? If I'm being honest because I want to contribute and I want to learn, I don't know. I just think that you can be honest for reasons that end up being self-serving rather than altruistic.
It might surprise some people to hear that one of the, I guess, a symptom or a red flag of sociopathy is somebody who is, I just tell it out like it is. I just put it out there like it is. And that is often somebody who, again, is just sharing their truth, but they're not coming at it with the intention of learning that there might be other truths and there might be other, it's not coming from a productive place. It's coming from a place of, I'm just sharing what I'm sharing for my benefit.
I think it feels righteous.
Yeah. And I think that's why that piece becomes so important, right? With that, well, why are we sharing the truths? And so if you have two parties coming together and they're like, okay, I'm going to share something with you and I'm doing this from a place of love and a place of caring. And I'm doing it because I genuinely think by you knowing it could be beneficial, right? This could help you, but I'm totally also open to the fact that I might be totally wrong. And I might, this may not be true. But I just wanted to share with you, right? That is, then taking that moment and getting the other person, they have to go, okay, I'm ready to hear that. I'm ready to hear it too. Because then everybody is in a space of, okay, we know why this is happening. We know why we're hearing a hard truth. And I'm in a place I can hear it right now. Because sometimes it's too much for people. Sometimes it's not the right time. So there's so many things that can come into play that I think it's fair to make sure everybody's on the same page. And I think this also comes into coaching as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can, before we segue into coaching, which I think this will help us do so, I think this can be part of your practice as a coach, but I do it in life when it comes to my sisters or anybody close to me that wants to have a conversation and I can tell their emotions are high at a certain point. I'll ask them, okay, they'll ask for my opinion. I'll say, do you want me to be here for you or do you want me to be honest? And from there, that really helps me determine what direction that conversation goes in, because I can just as happily be there for you as me giving my honest opinion on a situation.
And as somebody who has received that exact statement or similar, like, okay, I've had that other person go to me, okay, what do you want from me right now? Do you want me to just support you through this and listen and be an ear? Or do you want me to give you critical feedback in this moment and challenge what you're saying? And there are definitely those days where it's like, no, I just want to vent. And I just want you to be here for me to vent. And I will, when I'm in a space and ready, I'm absolutely open to having that critical feedback discussion. But right now, in this moment, what I need is to vent. Right?
Yeah.
And that is important. And I appreciate when somebody asks me that question. I so much appreciate when they go, okay, how do you want me to show up right now? Do you want me to show up as an honest truth teller that's going to call you on your BS, or do you want me to show up as a supportive friend? And sometimes we need both, and I think that's okay, right? I think that's okay.
I think part of coaching and just work in general on our self-work and self-worth is knowing what we need in the moment. And part of that through coaching can become a really wonderful learning for a client to recognize, hey, this is what I need. And they don't get to do that until they, a lot of the times, have the opportunity, like you're saying, Brooke, to vent. They sometimes just need to be irritated and upset and impacted, whatever those words are. And then they go, okay, I'm done. Now what do you have for?
Now let's get productive, right?
You know what I just, sorry, go ahead. Keep
Okay.
going.
Many times that's what couples will go through, because everybody wants to be heard and seen. As a couples coach, right? We both want to be heard and seen, and somebody is taking that space where I'm not being heard and seen. I'm going to make sure you hear and see me. So the other person, in some fashion, has to try to find that space where go, wait, I'm not the one that's upset here. They are. I need to find out what their needs are in this moment. So somebody's got to be the stronger one. And part of that learning and coaching that we do with couples is finding out what that balance is and how that needs to play out. And each couple, it plays out differently with. As each individual coach with them, it's going to show up differently on what that means.
I mean, I had an experience with a client not too long ago where literally it was one of those moments where she was opening up about this thing. But she said to me, I don't want to go down this road right now. I just want to share what this road is, but don't coach me on it. Do not. I'm not in the space I want to be coached on this. This is not what we're coaching about, but I just want to share. So I just shut up and I listened. I let her get it out. You know what I mean? And I knew. She told me what my job was as a coach in that moment. And my job as a coach was not to ask the challenging questions, right? When she's ready, she'll let me know, right? When she's ready to go down that road, she'll let me know. But she straight out said, no, I do not want to be coached on this right now. I just want to share and talk it through. And I was like, okay, listening, right? Not going to ask the tough questions. You don't want it. We can always come back to that tough question moment if that's what she needs. But just sometimes by virtue of sharing, I know when I do it, when I'm in one of those spaces where I'm like a venti, you know, I'm upset. But as I'm sharing and I'm word vomiting, what I'll start to do is go, okay, I know this is kind of BS right now, but I'm just going to say it. And I know that I could be wrong right here, but I just need to get it out. And as I'm sharing and getting it off of my chest, I'm at the same time hearing how silly some of those things are.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But what does that tell you? It means you have a safe space where you can do those things. So that provides room to remove that, which is not really, I hate to use the word valid, because valid's not really what I mean, but useful in this moment, so that it can provide that space for the things that are going to be more beneficial to the growth of that next direction.
When you were talking earlier, Brooke, about like, how do you want me to show up for you right now? Like, I realize that it's truly an act of service that we provide others when we ask them how they want us to show up, instead of us just assuming, well, I want to show up this way because this is how I am, and this is what I think is best for this person. This is what I think they need. How beautiful that we ask somebody, how do you want me to be for you right now? What do you need? And we're just open to it. I mean,
it's amazing. Wow. Well, and that's what Jerome, like he said, that's what he asked his sister. I think anybody who's been in a room of emotional people, asking a question like that is so helpful.
You don't know what they need until you know. And because I've learned from making mistakes and having assumed that this is what they needed in a moment. And it sends them in the other direction. They no longer want to be around me. The last thing that they should have asked for is speaking with me at that time. And sometimes they feel like, but by trial and error, I've realized that's super helpful to just kind of open up the floor.
One of the things I've said too is I used to be like this big, like, I want hard truths over soft lies. Give me the hard truths over the soft lies. I would like to know, because then I know what to work with, right? If there are things I don't know what situation I'm in. I don't know what I'm maneuvering. I don't have the whole picture. And it's not fair to me for me to be able to make informed decisions if I don't have the whole picture. But there's that flip side of the coin. I want the hard truths at the right time.
Well, I think you need the arena.
And I say it.
Like,
Would it be fair to say that you need the arena to make that right decision? If you're in an environment where you're still feeling uncomfortable and just unsettled, I think it's really hard to make, even with the intel that with the hard truths. It's hard for you to make a decision if you haven't settled yourself yet. So I think that's where the balance comes in.
absolutely.
I never want someone to lie, and soft lies, hard truth. And I can take a hard truth, but I have to, for me to receive it, it's got to be from your heart. And if it's from your heart, it's not hard. Is that? Yeah.
There's a level of trust there.
Yeah.
And there's a level of trust that has to happen in these honesty situations, right? And it's something I've learned too, kind of the hard way, because I'm somebody who really likes truth. I really appreciate truth. And that's because I had a life in the past where I felt like I always had to be on. So I was always telling little lies and always telling little things and I hated it. I hated it because it's hard to keep everything straight. It's hard to keep those lies straight, right? After a while, you don't know where you begin and the lie ends. And I reached a point where I was like, I just don't want to do that anymore. I would just rather be honest, because I do not lose track of the truth for myself, right? I know what my truth is. But there's that fine line where, okay, I can practice radical honesty, but it's not received 100% if you don't know that honesty is being given to you with good intention, with even better with integrity, and so it has to be something that's agreed with one another. And also, sometimes my truth is scary for other people. Like when I used to just open up about the fact that I am a survivor, and we'll just say it like flippantly, because I've worked through it. I'm on the other side. I don't have that's just a part of me, and I'm better because of it now. But other people don't realize that, and so sometimes they go, and it's scary for them. And I have to realize, oh wait, I need to be smarter about the way I share some of these things, and it's not that I'm not telling the truth. It's just that I want to make sure the person I'm talking to is prepared for that. And it's about just sort of being, I guess, empathetic and aware of other human beings and their experiences.
Compassionate honesty is what you're describing.
Right? It is, yeah. And I think that's important. I think it's an important piece. And that's sort of what sets the difference between that person that's just being honest to be sort of a dick or self-serving, and that person who's being honest with the right intention. The cool thing about that Hidden Brain episode, I love though, that the concept that you don't have to separate kindness with honesty. And in fact, when a loved one is being honest with you, even if it's a hard truth, as long as it actually feels more kind that they're being honest, because they're like, okay, I'm telling you this because I love you and I think it could help. And that makes it feel like a kind honesty, even if it's hard to hear. I think that the one thing that they didn't dive into in that, though, is making sure that we're being honest, but also being compassionate about, if I'm telling you because I think this would help you, it's up to that person to adopt that truth and make it their own. It's up to, so that person might say, no, you're wrong. Right. Or no, I don't want to change that. Or actually, I like this part of me. And I think we have to be like, okay, I shared, I told you, I accept you for as you, or they might stumble. They might say, I want to fix it, but not be perfect at fixing it. And I would never want that held against me, right? And I think that there has to be a give and take there. Like, I'm trying, please be understanding if I'm not perfect along the way. Or also, please be understanding if I just don't want to change that part of me.
Well, and change, I mean, if we're talking about change, change is not the easiest thing to do for the most part, because we have all these other ingrained patterns that have supported that direction. Now to go over to a new change, a new pattern, it does take effort and practice and commitment.
So can we bring it back to coaching? I know we had started and then we went off track from coaching, but can we bring it back? Because
No.
That's not what we're here for.
So I'm curious about the distinction between, radical honesty and then direct communication. What is the distinction between the two in coaching?
Well, go ahead, Lisa.
So there's been this thing that radical honesty needs to be harsh because it leaves off opinions. And then, or a misinterpretation of it, should I say. So radical honesty, when you're ready, can be beneficial. But people think it deserves, I think what I said earlier, not the heart, right? I'm just going to tell you like it is. When you forget to throw in the heart piece, it just becomes harsh, right? Radical honesty, heart, I think is what we're talking about.
I think that the direct communication has nothing to do with honesty, but that's for me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Direct communication is ensuring that what you are saying is understood.
Yeah.
And so it's that I'm not going to add in minutia, or I'm going to try to state this the clearest way possible, or in a way that you will best understand. And for me, that is what direct communication is. I think people can directly communicate and lie all day, if they want. And they can do it, for a number of reasons. I think that for me, direct communication means I am trying to give you information in the shortest distance between 2 points, essentially.
Yeah.
I think that when we start to worry about, all these other things, we can muddy the waters, and sometimes things become less clear and it's not as direct of communication. I do think in the coaching space, different people respond to things different ways. And there might be somebody that responds very well to direct communication. And there might be somebody who responds very well to a metaphor. There might be somebody which is less direct, right? There might be somebody that responds very, very well to, I'm gonna let's do a visualization, and those are less direct ways maybe to get to the same point. And so I think that becomes more about speaking your client's language. I think that all of those things should be done honestly and with integrity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Keep it simple. Honesty, integrity, best intentions. Yeah. That's serving.
Okay, Anthony says, it seems like radical honesty is an ethical principle that a person must and ought to abide to. They have to tell the truth because any sort of dishonesty or white lie is unethical. And I would say, yes, that is true in the coaching seat for sure. Although there are times we've sort of had this discussion about white lies and how there are moments where sometimes, and I don't know that it's a white lie. It just, if you have somebody that's about to go out and do a presentation and it's literally 2 minutes away and you tell them it's crap, you should do it over. Who are you helping in that situation? Nobody. There's nothing they can do about it. And at that point you say, it's going to be awesome. Get out there and kick butt.
Or just the omission of truth. Just don't say anything at all. Just stay quiet.
You're not helping.
I would call that a useful lie, or a kind lie, or a generous lie, because it ultimately is considering the impact on the person.
Yeah.
Well, and who knows how it's going to turn out.
True. Yeah, it's very true. And so that's like, again, that's like an interpretation of truth, but that's one of those things where that might be somebody's strong opinion in that moment. Is it the right time to share that with them? No, because there's nothing they can do about it, and all it's going to do is cause harm. And we, as a coach, we have to do better than not cause harm. We're supposed to do good. So, mind you, a coach isn't going to be in a situation where we're standing next to our client telling them if their presentation is great. But
I'm going to tell you, embarrassed to share this, but I'm going to share it anyways. When you said somebody's about ready to go give a presentation, I had no thought about the presentation. I had the outfit. What am I wearing that you're going to tell me looks bad?
Right? Well, that's true, though. I mean, maybe if you can help in that. I mean, it does help in the moment. Maybe it's that, you know, you look really washed out. Here's a little lipstick. I have it in my purse. I hand it to you. I make sure you look great. Right? Like, that is like, okay, I'm telling you, I have a solution. I can help you. And then, but if you just tell me I look like crap and then send me on my way and I can't change it, you've not helped me at all.
So this is where the key is then having the wisdom to know what's most appropriate in the situation. Is it compassionate honesty? Is it useful lies?
We're talking about emotional intelligence when we're speaking about this topic.
Yes.
It's all emotional intelligence.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think too, one of the neat things, again, that hit in that Hidden Brain episode was this idea of critical feedback, and how a lot of us as people feel a little starved for critical feedback. And I'm one of those people who enjoys critical feedback. Like, I like critical feedback. Sometimes it's hard to hear, but I do like the opportunity to improve. And I don't know how to improve if I don't have critical feedback. So I liked, you know, in Pilates, going and learning and getting that critical feedback, because I liked finding out how I could improve, how I could get better, and what I could do to improve. And I get annoyed sometimes when, like, you know, I get that criticism and there isn't an answer. Like, you don't have my help for me, but you give it to me, but fine, I'll go figure it out on my own. You know what I mean? And that when you're in, like, there's somebody who's a teacher and they're telling me I'm sucking. Well, what's the solution? How can you help me suck less? And they don't have that solution. That was a little annoying, but yeah. I've come up with my own since then. And in coming up with my own, I now have the answers for other people that were given to me. Right?
Wow. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Shakra Vedante. Yes, we love our hidden brain here. Steve.
Yes.
Love. But I found it interesting that we as people are sort of starved for critical feedback. And I do find this, like, I'll finish a Pilates class and I'll be like, what'd you guys think? Tell me, give me. And, you know, a lot of times it's this, you know, it was awesome. It was great. It was, and I'm like, no, but you can tell me if you want. So I changed my approach there is I ask them before class and I say, what do you want more of? Like, what do you want to improve on in this class? What do you want to work on? What do you guys want me to focus on for you today? And then I find, okay, that's awesome, because I can give them that immediate payoff in that moment. And I think it's actually, I think, a better way for me to ask for that feedback is to do it before, because then I can do something about it. Yeah.
Because afterwards, if you say, how was it? And people are trying to please, right? Because lots of people do
that. But if I ask them before, what do you want? What do you want more of? How can I help you? How can I show up for you today?
That's great.
And they can tell me and I can actually show up for them.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. It was actually in Acme. That was a question. I don't remember which coach asked it, but it was one of I think it was Sam, because his client was feeling emotional and she was like, I am just emotional today. And one of the first questions he asked was, how can I show up for you today with that? Like, how can I show up for you today with that being emotional?
Yes.
Yeah. And she shared. And what a smart question. Like, what a great thing to ask.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good if your client shows up like that, to ask them what they need from you.
And what he didn't do was say, oh, I'm sorry you're emotional. Oh, tell him, you know, let's delve into that emotion. Tell me more about that. He asked, how can I show up for you in that emotion? Because it was up then, and that left it completely up to her. Does she want to delve into it more? Does she want to talk? Is it something she doesn't want to talk about?
Yeah.
It's very powerful and very open-ended way to approach somebody who was opening up about being emotional? And I thought that was such a cool question.
Acknowledge and then ask for the client to make the choice, right? Isn't that going to be on my exam here soon?
Yeah. Is there, so I mean, with us, as there was also moments, I think, if I'm even thinking about to Acme, our event that just happened, and I'm thinking about those moments where we had it was a lot in dance coaching where there was that, I'm going to interrupt you and I'm going to point something out.
It was, may I pause you here?
Uh-huh.
Gentle pause here. It was like so softly honest. It was so good.
But it was an honest question around those moments, and it did allow her to decide how to react, right?
Yes.
And I think that a lot of people watching were taken aback by the interruption of the client's thought process.
Yeah.
They were like, whoa, I'm not used to seeing that. Why did that just happen? It was really neat to hear the client's perspective afterwards. And she was like, well, I need that though. Like, I need that. I need a coach who's going to call me on my stuff, like who's going to stop me and who's going to keep me from running down that rabbit hole. And what's funny is she gave the credit to the coach, but the truth of the matter was she decided if she was going to run. He didn't. He just asked about it, and then she decided what to do. Yeah. It's not that he called her on her BS. He just paused her for a moment and said, hey, can I ask about that?
Yeah.
And so she was giving her credit away. But
Totally.
It was very, very powerful and cool thing to see. And it was one of those moments where it was being a little more, it was an honest moment for the coach to go, hey, I hear something. And I'm going to make it might be a little uncomfortable, but yeah. Bringing it into the coaching, this honesty versus kindness. How does kindness work for us as coaches? Like, should we be kind?
Yes. I mean, yes, definitely.
I hope so.
That's the alternative.
Yeah, that just flows into setting the environment, right? Facilitating an environment that's comfortable for your client. I guess some people could be comfortable in a non-kind environment, but I think for the most part, you'll want to, at the very least, start there. Start with a kind environment, and if your client is like, "Sure, we can get rowdy in here," and then you can move from there. But I think kindness is a good baseline to start at.
Yeah.
But there's this concept of kindness extending to praise and extending to good jobs, attaboys, head nods and that can be, so there's kind of, when I asked that, I asked it sort of as a devil's advocate. There are kindnesses that maybe we don't bring into the coaching seat. What might, and so I mentioned a few, what sort of kindnesses should a coach leave out of the coaching space?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I responded to the chat. Tell me again, what is the question?
What sort of kindnesses should a coach leave out of the coaching space?
Sugar.
Yeah.
You don't need to sugarcoat anything. You just keep it where you're connecting with that person. I don't know if that's what you're asking me, how to be. Or are you saying how to, tell me what you mean when you say what kindness to leave out? When
we're out in the world, there are kindnesses we extend to people that we may not want to extend in the coaching space. And I would say sugarcoating for the right client might be something that has to happen. We might have to sort of tenderly, but even still, no, we're not making judgments. So yeah, we might ask a softer question in a certain situation, right?
But to me, that's not sugarcoating it. It's working the client's language. So, Anthony's throwing in there
Anthony's just throwing it out. Yeah, he's pumping them out for us here.
Yeah, that cheerleading, the compliments. We're not really in there to compliment the client, but like you said, there's times that a certain way of language for the client, as they shared with us, is a benefit to them. If it's a benefit for us in the way we're communicating, then that's the wrong direction. So to benefit a client, if I have to have, what the question was, like tough love kind of, I can be tough love, but that doesn't mean rude or mean or I don't know how. It just keeps it simple. Is what I go back to. Keep it simple, and keep the opinions out.
The thing that has come up for me in this space is, like, if you have a client that is not showing up on time, frequently rescheduling or canceling, what is the amount of kindness that the coach shows this client? Does it even serve the client for the coach to be kind when that is their action? Does it serve them more for the coach to just be direct and almost not attached to how the client receives the directness of, this is what's in my contract, this is my policy, this is the way I do things. If this happens, this is the expectation. Just very direct. Yeah.
I think sometimes we forget that people aren't clear with boundaries, and helping them understand the boundaries can be something that simple as what you've put. I'm checking in with you today because, I'm noticing a pattern. May I address the pattern? And they're usually going to say yes. Okay, we've been late. You've been late a few times. It's cut down into the contract time, and you've wanted me to work the full, let's just say, hour. You want me to still work the full hour. That's not part of what this session is. Right? I'm sharing with you, here's what we signed up for. I signed up. You signed up for, so it's a language, and keep it simple and just, like you said, direct, keeping it to, this is the time that works. If you're late, then we've got hard stop at the time that you're scheduled to.
I've written a few things down in this, Anthony was like working or cheerleading. We don't cheerlead. Kindness, we might show somebody else that cheerleading, that agreeing with them, offering our opinion, our 2 cents, giving advice, the things we might do. These are all things that we might consider kindnesses when we're out in the real world that we should not extend into the coaching. If a client said, "Can you help me with that?" Or "Can you remind me to do that?" Or all things we might do for a friend, but we should not be doing for our client, right? We should not we're empowering you to do this on your own. We're not working harder than our clients. We might sometimes work harder than our friends. We might sometimes work harder than our family members, but it's not, we don't do that in that coaching space. We had somebody ask over the weekend, can we use reminders that go off, throughout for our clients if they're working on a goal, where they get a weekly reminder or something like that from us. And I could see as a coach, well, that's a great idea, because I'm doing this, and it could be a perk of how I run things and do things. But at the same time, it is a bit of us working harder than our client at that point, isn't it? So
yeah. When the client asks you, "Hey, will you check in with me?" I always redirect it to, "I would love for you to check in with me," right? Because that gives them ownership of the process, and that is going to help them outside of the coaching container. That is the self-accountability skill that we're trying to hone in the space together, that they can take with them once we're done coaching. It's not going to help if I check in with them, because when I'm gone, when we're not coaching, then they're screwed.
Well, that's it. We're not their parent, right? We're not their parent. We're not there to parent them or to help them find their empowerment in their independence of being successful, which we could help them figure out what system works for them, right? Not that I'm going to tell you Google's better than this. Like, how would you go about researching that? What is going to best serve you? What kinds of things do you need to have that calendar do for you?
Yeah. Jerome, weren't you going to say something?
Yeah.
You got it pretty much. Just ensuring that your client is being responsible for creating their own game plan. Pretty much what I was going to say.
Yeah. Do you? I mean, I think Jerome or Jen, you have a fun question that requires a roundtable of opinions when we get to the end. Let's talk about it.
So, this is for a specific person who may watch. So, when someone asks you, "How are you?" do you answer with honesty, or do you answer with something else? Maybe, I don't know. I love this question so much, and I'm so curious what you guys do if you have any sort of, method or intention behind answering the question, "How are you?"
Absolutely do. 100%.
Yeah.
I have a way I do it.
Anthony, you're just like you're right here.
First and foremost, if it's a total stranger,
yeah,
I will. The answer will range from anywhere from doing okay, doing good, doing just fine, getting by, getting through my day. All honest though. All honest. So if I'm having a bad day, it'll be something like, just getting through, doing what I need to do, putting one foot in front of the other, right? Mm-hmm. If it's somebody that I am close with and we have time, I will say I have a really hard time not wearing my emotions on my sleeve with somebody I love. I've tried, and most of the time I get called out on it really quick. Like, I mean, just walking through the door, something's wrong, what's up? And it's like, but there's also this phase of knowing what can happen and how much discussion can be had. So like if it's in a space where we got to be somewhere in 10 minutes, I'm having a bad time, I'm going to say, not doing too great right now, but we'll talk about it later. Going to set that aside. Let's focus on what we need to focus on.
And that's training. That's you have trained yourself to recognize what that means to you and when it's appropriate for you and when it's not appropriate, that you have worked and growth in that space.
What I'm not going to do though is dump my S on somebody who, one, doesn't deserve it, hasn't asked for it, and isn't in a space that they can handle it and doesn't know me. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to ever be the person that just everything out there. If somebody just asks me how I'm doing and I barely know, I'm going to check in. I always try to check in with, hey, are you in a space where we can talk? Hey, are you in a space where are you at? How can you even show up for me right now before I dump onto you?
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. If we're being, let's be honest here, if we are having a thing that's going on with us, it's not fair for me to transfer that energy to you without asking you if you're willing to receive it yet.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But that's my long answer to that question, Jen.
I love it. Love the answer. Love it.
I think there's like two different ways that question is asked. How are you doing? Sometimes it's just small talk, and then I can tell when somebody really is there and present with me and really wants to know how I'm doing. So usually I would say probably about 70% of the time, it's just small talk, and there's no need to just completely outburst my emotions if I'm having a bad day. So usually I'm just going to say, I'm doing good. About yourself? It's kind of just an exchange of, gratitude for each other, just want to check in really quickly. But I can tell when there is, there's time for it, kind of like what Brooke was mentioning. And you can tell there's just a shift in someone's demeanor when they're really trying to check in with you. And at that point, if I am ready to go and I can actually, I have the strength or the energy to actually speak about what's going on, and I am having a bad day, then I'll go ahead and do so. But if I do kind of respond with I'm doing all right, and that may not be the truth, I think I'm really bad at lying. So I think usually I think people understand that's me declaring to them that I'm just not ready to talk about this right now. If I realize that they've opened up themselves to me and I respond with that, I'd like to think that they know that I'm just at that moment not ready to speak about it. I should probably be a little bit more honest and say, hey, I'm not doing the greatest, but let's talk about it later if we can. But who I am as a person, I try and make people around me as comfortable as possible, even in my moments of discomfort. So I think that's why I do that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what annoys me though, and sometimes I feel like it's not fair, is because I'm generally a very energetic and peppy and like, yeah, kind of person. That sometimes when I'm just a little tired, like people will be like, "What's wrong? Are you okay? Like, is everything okay? Are you sure?" And I'm like, dude, I'm just tired. Like, let me be tired. Just let me be. I don't have to be like on all. Like, I don't have to be. I'm allowed to sometimes just be tired. And it's something I get at the studio. It's funny because there's another instructor that Pretty is. She's like that. Where we're very bubbly, outgoing people. That sometimes when we're just like worn out, people are like, are you okay? Is everything all right? Is everything like, and it's like, no, there's no cause for alarm or panic. Just sometimes we're tired, So I think if you ask that question or you're assuming that I am something, please accept my answer and believe me when I tell you I'm okay.
That's the other thing. There are sometimes people will say that, not that you're saying that, not implying that at all, but they're wanting you to go deeper in that. And they're essentially wanting you to become codependent. Now the option is, do you become codependent or do you take them at their word?
I don't know how to answer that.
that can be the conundrum, right?
Yeah.
If you sense something as a coach, maybe that's what you say. I'm sensing something that's a little deeper there, but I'm going to honor your words.
Yes, just believe me when I tell you, no, I'm good. And sometimes it's frustrating too, because it's like, then I have to do this whole internal checklist, like, wait, why am I projecting that something's wrong? Is something actually wrong? What's actually going on with me? Is it just that I'm tired? And this whole like internal dialogue of self-checks go off because of somebody, and it can be, which is fine. I don't think that is a bad thing. I guess I just don't want to, I don't like having to feel defensive about how I'm feeling. Like, just let me feel, let me be, like when somebody apologizes for crying, I feel like you don't have to apologize.
Yeah, there's no reason.
You're allowed to just do what you're doing. There's no judgment here. So.
I think we should do a live on that. How is it that we have learned as a society to apologize for crying?
There's a really good video on it. I can send you a really good video about how as a society we are not allowed to really like sit in sadness and grieve. It becomes, but that's a part of human emotion, and so we if it's better embraced, we're like more whole human beings. But there's all these things that happen where we spontaneously cry and that's a lot of times because we're repressing bad emotions, which aren't actually bad. They're just emotions. So
I know exactly where my apologizing for crying came from. Oh, stop your crying. You're fine. Grow up. Okay, thanks, Dad.
Only girls cry. That was part of girls cry. It's a girls cry thing, but I cry all the time, and I can't help it. It just is what it is.
I don't apologize anymore though, because I see how genuine it is, and it's nothing to apologize for ever. Yeah. Lisa, what was your answer? There's like a small bug in this house.
Oh, it was basically the same as Brooke's. I mean, there was no real deviation from what she answered, so I'd just be repeating her. It's a pick and choose kind of moment, depending on where I am, where they are, how comfortable I am, how comfortable they are. It just depends.
Yeah.
Is it a greeting, like Jerome was pointing out? Is it a greeting? Is it a really time? I mean, all of that. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes something's wrong, and I'll just say, yeah, something's going on, but I just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
sometimes it's just, for me, it's not something I'm ready to process. So it's like I'm compartmentalizing because this is not the time for me to process. I will process that and I'll share when it's time, but it's not the time. And and that's, sometimes I don't even know what I'm feeling. Right. And that's why those internal checks and balances happen, because it's like, I don't even know what I'm feeling right now. So I don't even know how to answer.
Yeah.
So it's easier just to say, it's fine, I'm okay. Just so it almost can feel like an intrusive question, right? Like if we were to do it, yeah.
And if they try to dig deeper, if they try to dig deeper in that, it's like, I'm good. I don't want to go there.
Yep.
Right. I used to get asked how I was every day when I would walk into my previous job, that I was not good. I was never good. I was never really okay, but I would always be like, I'm all right. I'm okay. And if anyone would pry, it would get really ugly, and I would just think, like, please don't pry. Please accept I'm good. Like, just accept it and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now I see this is just kind of the season that I'm in. Anytime I go out into the world and I have that, small talk, how are you? I see that as an opportunity to make that person feel seen. So I'm immediately like, I'm good. How are you? And I really focus the energy back on that person. And usually the person really tells me how they are at that point. And I can handle it, whatever it is, I can shake it off if it's something heavy, but I haven't always been that way. I used to take on whatever it was, and then it would carry me home, and I would have a bad day feeling sad for the person that had their dog die or something. And now I don't have that. And so because I can shake that off, I'm always looking for the opportunity, to make someone feel important.
It's so funny too. Like, I know we're all out of time, but I had this conversation where, people will open up and share these deep, sad things. And I remember I was talking with a friend, and she was like, man, that's like a bummer. Like when, there's all these people and they're going through these things, and then I go home and I feel bummed. And I was like, oh man, you can't take that with you. Like, you gotta you're there, you hear for them, be there for them, but you can't make it. And I was kind of very blunt. I was like, I don't do that. I can't, it's not about me. Ultimately, that I feel selfish if it's about me. I feel like, I'll be there for them. I'll support them. I'll say that sucks, but I'm not going to bring that it's not my fight. It's not my sadness. And I think that it's selfish for me to make it my sad, like make it about me and make it sad for me. And I said all this stuff without thinking it, because it's my training. Right. And then I was like, I probably came off like such a bitch. I probably came off like a sociopathic bitch. But I think, luckily, and I circled it back with her about it later, and I was like, it's just, we've been trained not to take home the emotions and everything, and how to leave that where it is, and then live my life and worry about me. And she was like, no, I got it. I think I needed to hear it too. She was like, I needed to know that, so that I didn't keep bringing that stuff home.
People think that their empathy should be always on, and it doesn't. That's not what it is. It's not.
That's the difference between sympathy and empathy, though, right? Yeah. Sympathy is, I see what you're going through, and I feel that way now too, and so I'm making it about me. Empathy is, I see what you're going through. I've been there. I get it. I understand. This isn't about me. I actually am feeling for you and what you're going through, and I'm not making it about me. Where that's the sympathy piece, is that piece where you're sad, now I'm sad, and now it's as much my problem as it is your problem. And it's to me such like, it's totally, when you think of it that way, it's like a total flip.
Sympathy is jumping into the pit with them, and you guys can get out, and you're just like, what do we do?
Right. Exactly. It's like the news article I read where there's they found 3 or 4 people inside a pit that all went to save a dog, and all of them died. Oh. And there's one person who didn't jump in the pit and die of sulfuric poisoning. But how do you keep jumping in one after the other? Like, it's like, no, this is all bad. Like,
It's just a horrible situation.
and they found all of them in it. And
Oh,
they're like, man.
God.
Oh, it was very
And there was
sad.
one person who went and got help, and that is the only one who lived.
Oh my God.
They all
There
just one
was
right
a
after
book
another.
I read. I can't remember what it is. Something about tiger, and it's really a really tough book if you think of the concepts. The cool thing, there was so much learning in it about this. What we're talking about is maintaining, who I am versus who they are. It's about children who got severely abused.
Oh, I remember you mentioning that before.
Yeah, really tough topic to read. And I'm looking through and reading through the book, and I'm like kind of watching myself, and I'm going, huh, you're not crying at any of these. These are just something typically you would like be bawling your eyes at. And you're just still reading this and still in a space of balance. Like what brings us back to balance, I can't tell you the name. I know there's the name. It's on the book list. If you've come to class, it's on the book list.
Oh, okay.
On there. But
I have to go because I've got to go work out. So
Okay.
we're gonna sign off. Not that's not the only reason. We're also out of time. It's not like it's all done.
Well, apparently it is.
Yeah, just too honest with everybody now. Thank you so much out there for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Have an amazing day, and remember,
Join us for classes if you haven't been. Let us know you're still thinking about us. Send us some love in our different chats we have invited you to. Don't miss our next Acme event. If you are an alumni, if you don't know what that is, then you're not in our alumni chats. Get hold of us so we can get you in there. Okay.
bye.
See you guys.